is a joint walkthrough through the exhibition No One Belongs Here More Than You. 54th October Salon. With us is the majority of the artists of the exhibition. We especially wanted to invite the works and artists that generate works which evoke affect. This has one specific reason why we chose so, because we believe that the problem, not only with a lot of feminist, let us say, movements, but also with a lot of political movements, is the lack of affect. So Ines Dujak is an artist already in, let us say, more ripe phase of her work. She has been dealing a lot with queer and feminist issues. In her latest art project, which is a research art project and has three different aspects. It's dedicated completely to the question and research on the history and the contemporaneity of textile industry. As you know, the building, Clues, it's a former textile department house, as well as there was a textile factory next to the house, and another common topic in textile industry is that it's predominantly female labor who is working within the textile industry. So Ines Dujak started the research project by collecting in Peru and Bolivia ancient and old textile, old fabric, and around this fabric she is now, so to say, knitting the story. We have here from the work the work Haute Couture, which is also a work in progress, and the posters are part of eccentric archive, making visible the history and the materiality of the way the fabric was produced. You will see every time a year, and she was searching in the history where on the planet there was a protest by textile workers, and what was the outcome of the protest.
The video is a documentation of the process. I chose only the funniest moments because one of the main things that I like while working is keeping a good atmosphere while learning and doing stuff, and that's actually what it's all about. So Lydia and Dina were my colleagues. The three of us were kind of taught by Tonchi. I'm working with Tonchi, who is a guy. I mean, if there was a woman who knows how to weld and grind, I would work with a woman, but I don't know of any. So, I mean, I don't mind working with a guy, but it's kind of, you know, you could make it all female work. Daniela said that this is a she try. So we've been actually learning throughout the process, from planning to building this. We're going through all stages, all three of us with Tonchi, and trying to understand each part of the whole thing that's being made. So throughout the process it turned out that Lydia fell in love with grinding, so she did the cutting of most of the pipes. Dina is actually a sculptor, so she was very good in shaping pipes so they could fit into each other, and I really wanted to learn to weld. I mean, these welds are awful, but you know, you can step on it, it won't break. That's the most important thing, so they weren't. The impossibility of working in the sphere, because I've tried to find a job as a qualified mechanic, but no one wanted to hire me. So I've transmitted my frustration through art and through good fun while learning. It happened. No. me, so it's a special thing.
Actually, we wanted to put some kind of visuality, old art media in a new context of the contemporary art, and for us was pretty much special dealing with these politics of affects through imagination of the social, of individual, and of the collective. So please, Jelena, tell us something more about this Bella Ciao picture.
Okay, I painted for one exhibition where it was a theme of history, and that's how it became. It was in Italy, so it was history of Italy. That's why it is Bella Ciao.
You choose it?
I chose that period of time in Italian history. Okay, but it can be applied on any other. I wanted to make it more universal. Every painting has its own environment. I don't know. So it's they are not connected in like it's not a series of paintings.
It's like the most people, when they see your paintings, they think of surrealism. And what is your, so to say, personal reference or not reference? How you see it? Like,
I think I don't like words surrealism or I think because it is used not very proper way today. I think.
By Marco Pelkan and Matthew Biederman, and it's basically a very collective work. It departed from a conference 2010, and it's thematizing the colonization and the destruction of the North Pole of the Arctic. So basically, Marco Pelkan and Matthew Biederman were only the ones who visualized, who visually, so to say, worked upon the question. As you see here, the works, like the main point of departure for the work is the problematization of the cartography. The question is how to cartography a land which is constantly changing. I mean, these are ice blocks and very little land, but which is constantly changing. The protection of the indigenous people in the Arctic, who depends not only on whales, some of them eat fish, so that's why we should basically fight them in killing them, so there would be more fish for the human being, which is in the era of Anthropocene really a very problematic statement.
The name of the first one is one for tango. It's a metaphor for memories. As you will see on the beginning, the virtual human, virtual creature playing with himself, and during the movement there is a motion blur. And motion blur is a question of our perception, how we perceive very speed movement. But when we did it on a computer, then you could enlarge this movement. So, metaphorically speaking, you could play with your memories of previous position of the body. Also, you could play with your own memories. So the one starts to become two, and that's why it's one for tango, because you know this phrase. And also there is a different movement of memories which I want to evoke in this work. One of them is the feeling of falling down, and another one is jumping, trying to fly. So they're very intimate and poetic works, also this one. Animation. Now we are almost on the middle, it's about 8 minutes. And at the beginning you have one particular singular arm movement. The name is asymmetry because I want to accent this particular human thing in multiply and play to themselves, they make something bigger in some way.
Ma za ovaj rad, mislim, i uopće za stvari koje radim, ovo je jako važan kontekst u kojem su nastali radovi.
For the work of Slaven, for Slaven, it's very important the context in which he develops the work.
Znači ne mojom odlukom, nego na vaš poziv se u stvari prisjetili ovog rada iz 2008. Koji je nastao u stvari 2007. kad sam bio u žiriju za izbor najboljeg BiH umjetnika, Institut za suvremenu umjetnost, to je BiH me pozvao na izložbu u Banja Luci.
So this work, Slaven made this work 2007 when he was a part of the member of the jury for the best, the contemporary artist of the year in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and the work itself was produced then a year later, 2008.
Znači, nakon tog žiriranja i otvaranja izložbe smo cijelu noć, kao i mi jučer, u Belgradu smo lumpali u Banja Luci i negdje u 4 ujutro smo izbačeni iz tog kluba na prilično brutalan način, a izbacivač, jedan od tih ljudi koji su nas izbacili, taj Curated, je imao ovaj tekst, se obratio meni sa ovim tekstom.
So after the jury protocol, they went for a party to celebrate with the winner and so forth. And around 4 o'clock in the morning, they were pretty violently thrown out of the club where they were partying. And the security guy of the club turned to Slaven with a replica that it said here. And the replica said, "Shame on you! You have a grey beard. You have a grey wedding ring,
Silver. Grayers.
silver.
Like.
I'm sure you also have children. What are you doing here 4 o'clock in the morning?"
Uvijek povezati taj politički i socijalni kontekst sa nekom svojom intimnom situacijom, tako i dođe do tog nekog rada.
Okay, so the work was produced for a show in Banja Luka in 2008, and the aim of the show was, so to say, move forward, or it had a political impetus to change this very rigid, or to re-question the very rigid political situation in Republika Srpska. So that's why Slaven decided to put the quote of the security guy to the exhibition, because he's always interested to connect the social and the political context with the art context. Could I say to make a dialogue, or?
Yes, and be with my intimate situation.
And he's individual and situated in team positioning and situation.
This work is called "Thanks for your visit and see you soon," and the title is coming from a book, and the title of the book is in French and Flemish, because the book is made in Belgium, so it's indicating immediately in the title. And how I make recent works, it's mostly by collecting, and it's kind of part of my everyday rituals, and then I have material that gets the shape in the end after some time, when I feel like it's the moment to do something with this. So in the beginning of the book there is text. The book is made in chapters, and the first 2 pages is kind of story about the concept of this work, and the first part is telling something about the drawings, and the second part about builds. And every page in this book is made with 1 bill and 1 drawing, And drawings are overthrown or copied from the newspapers that I found in Belgium, and these newspapers are made for all our diaspora in the diaspora for Yugoslavian people outside. And I found it, some of pictures, some of photos from this newspaper I found funny or strange or somehow disrupting, and I was just copying every day few of these photos. At the same time I was collecting bills, my own bills, to see how much I spend there. And then in one point I decided to scan one bill and one drawing in a context to put them together, that they are saying that we are what we read, but also what we buy. It's from all the bills that are used in a book, and it's called 308.55 euros, which is actually the taxes I would get from all of this place.
The questionnaire on feminism, feminist art, what should the feminist archive collect, all the audio-video archive from the previous Living Archive editions, as well as Perpetuum Mobile, the archive of video art, as well as other documentation of artworks. Here in the corridor there are quotes on feminism, which we edited from the questionnaire that people filled in. And we are always, while developing concepts, we always get very much inspired by the answers that people are giving to the questionnaire.
It was a very site-specific and concept-specific work made for the Triennial of Contemporary Art in Slovenia in 2010. It was a show that was curated by Charles Esche from Van Abbe Museum. And basically the premise of the show, so of the Triennial, was let's look at the contemporary art in Slovenia today. And so 3 years ago it was what was really on the wallpaper and still remains on the wallpaper was this reappropriation and modernism, especially in male sculpture. So I was quite interested in taking design objects and sculptures from the 20th century that were sort of being reappropriated in other ways in art, but with pure formalist reinterpretations. So I remade all these famous design pieces. You see there's the Riedfeld lamp, there's the Stark chair, there's the Sotsas little table, and there's a Fontanger Lupis there. So it's art and design objects, but they're all remade, so they're all fakes, and all their measurements are only based on photographs. So it was this idea of delegated execution of artworks, which is very much on the wallpaper also in contemporary sculpture. I was then using all these pieces merely as props for birds of prey. So I was kind of looking at, in a way, the most decontextualized object from nature, which is kind of doing a similar way to art objects that deal or come from, let's say, engaged practices. So it was, in a way, taking an animal that used to have a very, very basic function. It used to be used by man to hunt, so it was literally used to get food. Then it became a very known status symbol of, authorities, as in regal sort of inclinations, etc. So, the more important aristocrat you were, the bigger bird you kind of had. And nowadays, falconry is used as a totally sort of devalued sort of social interaction. So there's loads of these companies that do these event days where all the employees go onto these falconry experiences. So in a way, this is why I started using the bird of prey as this like very nice paraphrase of this decontextualization of the actual meaning that the artwork a lot of the times undergoes as well. And this was also a part of the exhibition, so all the photographs are exhibited around this piece. And this is basically a prop for training these birds. So you have birds flying through the hoops and obviously sitting on it, etc. And it takes after the design comes from a designer that used to work for Jacques Doucet, who was the first he was basically the first purchaser of the Moselle d'Avignon. So he purchased it directly from Picasso's studio with a promise he will donate it to the museum, which of course he never does. And this was basically the premise on which Picasso sold him the painting. And his objects were basically placed under the Musée d'Avignon, so they were specifically made to be placed under basically the first modernist painting. So there's all this game of, you know, looking at modernism, looking at, you know, reappropriation modernism in a time when contemporary art should be engaging, in my opinion, with very different issues. This was also a very specific work, which was made within the project I called the airport project, and it was sort of a 3-year collaboration or artistic actions within the international airport in Ljubljana, the Link Airport. So this was around 2007-8. What was happening with basically our only international airport was that it was being redeveloped. They were building a new Schengen terminal, and I was quite interested in the whole architectural space of it because of two issues of, you know, this kind of non-spaces. So, you know, these empty architectures that in a way don't have anything, any action, any experience inherent within it, but they get the audience. So their audience, their users, their spectators, if you want, are basically taken in a state of awaiting this authority to happen upon them, which is basically an encyclopedia written by 2 authors that should entail all fictitious places from the history of literature. Now, this encyclopedia is at the same time extremely specific of which places are fictitious enough to be included. And the writing you see up there is basically from the only novel that is inserted in this encyclopedia that treats the paraphrases of places from the Balkan region. And this was a book by Karel May called In the Gorges of the Balkans, which was incidentally the only book by Karel May that was included in this dictionary.
Exclusion mechanism in Pristina art institutions, which aren't that many, but still she felt an urge to react against it. So in her one artistic action, she brought both testicles of animal testicles, and she put them like on an altar, like in front of the art gallery. So this is basically the continuation of her work, which you might see maybe afterwards, because it's a very tiny room, and it's basically full of mirrors which are reflecting the diagram, her analysis of the power mechanisms within the art system. And from Fiapa are also the drawings which are there, entitled "Who's Required After This Point." I think something like this, and it's again the situation and the problematization of the visibility, as well of creation of the safe space, and this could be interpreted in many ways, also in relation to art or the gallery, or the relation between art and everyday life.
What we see here and behind this wall is actually documentation of an action entitled Looking for Work. The action lasted a year and a half, during which I advertised myself as a visual artist urgently looking for any kind of work. It was very obvious from the beginning that all the offers that were arriving on the basis of this ad were coming from men offering very provocative and very suspicious pornographic work. Behind the wall there are the documentations of 7 different jobs that I did, and each one is actually also evaluated on the work which is on the mirror right opposite. All the conversations that were held over the phone and all the SMS offers that I received are all recorded and all published in the book, in the publication, which is also here exhibited. transcripts, so you're invited, of course, to read through them. And also there is an audio with selected conversations that are playing live in the MP3 player.